Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the public information meeting for the Newton-Weston Bridge Replacement and Rehabilitation at I-90, I-95. My name is Marco Pereira from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, and I'm the design build manager, project manager on this project. Before we begin with tonight's presentation, I'll hand it off to our producers to go over some quick housekeeping for this virtual meeting.
Thank you, Marco. Before we get into the presentation, I'd like to go over some Zoom webinar controls for tonight's meeting. There is a drop-down menu to check your microphone and speakers for audio and audio settings. Two main ways you'll be able to interact with tonight's panelists is through the raised hand function. This is *9 for users dialing in through your phone. If you are unable to access the internet or are having any technical problems, please call into the meeting at 305-224-1968 with the webinar ID 832-9124-5253. If you are having any trouble with the meeting technology during the presentation, you can call into the 1-888-799-9666 number on the orange box on the right-hand side of your screen. Closed captioning is automatically generated by Zoom. Please note that since this is automatically generated, it may not be entirely accurate. You can also use the view button on the upper right-hand corner of your screen to adjust your meeting view settings to your preference. Moving on, we'll go over the public meeting notes and procedures. Please note that tonight's virtual public meeting will be recorded. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, or chat transcript. All parts of this meeting are considered public record, and by continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you are consenting to participate in a recorded event. If you are uncomfortable being recorded, please keep your camera off, keep your microphone muted, or you can excuse yourself from the meeting entirely. Other important notes, you may note that your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled upon entering this meeting. This meeting will be open to questions and answers at the end of the formal presentation, where you can be unmuted to voice your comments, questions, or concerns. There will be also a survey at the end of tonight's meeting. So when you exit out, a survey will pop up. Please take a couple minutes to fill it out. Your feedback is very important to the success of the department. This slide shows Mass DOT's policy on diversity and civil rights. All MassDOT activities, including public meetings, free of discrimination. We welcome the diversity from across our entire service area. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit the website shown on the screen below, mass.gov/non-discrimination in transportation program with hyphens to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. All questions and comments are appreciated and welcome. However, we do request that you refrain from any disrespectful comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. First of all, I'm going to go over tonight's agenda at a high level. We just went through, we're going to go through introductions, project background, project overview, stage 1A construction, next steps, and then Q&A. The project team consists of, from the MassDOT Highway Division team, myself, the design build project manager, Marco Pereira, from District 6 Construction, Robert Fink and Catherine Barr, from Legislative Affairs, Dan Fielding. Our meeting producers are Raisa Kwame and Joseph Yu. Our preliminary design consultant is GPI, represented by Mark Elder, and our public outreach consultant is Howard Stein Hudson, represented by Aaron Reed. The winning design build team, the contractor performing the work, consists of SPS New England Walsh joint venture, led by Bill Sarapek tonight, and by Jacobs Engineering, led by Darren Conboy. How did we get here? In July of 2022, we finalized a base technical concept, followed by in August 2022, we had a design public hearing to apprise the public of the base technical concept that we were going to be putting out for bid, essentially. Between then and April 2023, we engaged in a procurement process, which consists of evaluating various teams, soliciting bids, and coming up with a best value bid. And in April 2023, the design builder was awarded and we went on to notice to proceed. As of December 2023, or starting December 2023, work such as clearing and grubbing, utility work, the commencement of bulkhead and trestle installation, and ramp B reconfiguration took place. And here we are in April 2024 for this public information meeting to let you know what's going to come moving forward. Public notice for this meeting was conducted through the regional newspapers that you see up on the screen, through multilingual flyer distribution in Newton-Weston, and the mass.gov websites. First, we'd like to begin with a high-level overview of the project area, which lies at the intersection of I-90 and I-95. The area shaded in orange shows the approximate project limits. Why was this project initiated? The bridges are deteriorating and are in need of repair or full replacement. The image on the left shows an example of spalls on the deck at I-90 over the MBTA track, and the image on the right shows an example of deck corrosion. The image on the left here shows an existing bridge barrier that is substandard and deteriorating, and the image on the right shows another example of spalling, exposed rebar, and corrosion at the I-90 bridge over I-95 in the Charles River. In our last examples, we're showing these two images which show deterioration of steel at ramp G. It's important to note that these bridges are currently safe, but these images show that the bridges are deteriorating and need to be replaced to avoid future traffic disruptions due to maintenance. Other necessary improvements can be seen here. On the left, we show where traffic from both Park Road and I-95 are merging very quickly before joining I-90 eastbound to Boston. The merge distance here will be improved by extending an acceleration lane along I-90 eastbound, so ramps P and G have more time to merge. On the right side, you can see that the I-90 over I-95 bridge has 3 lanes and essentially no shoulders. The bridge will be wider to accommodate proper safety shoulders, both in the eastbound and westbound directions. The I-90 westbound direction will also add a deceleration lane so that the traffic exiting the Park Road and I-95 can slow, while traffic continuing on I-90 westbound can flow more freely. What do we wish to accomplish? Here we can see the overall project scope, and to break it down, we have the following slides. The bridges shown here are to be fully replaced and are as follows, approximately from left to right. Ramp G over I-90, Ramp G over the MWRA Haltman Aqueduct, Ramp G over ramps A and B, I-90 over I-95 in the Charles River, and Ramp AB over the Charles River. Here we show the I-90 over the MBTA bridge, which will have its superstructure replaced. And here the following bridges will be rehabilitated. Ramp C over the MWA Haltman Aqueduct, Ramp A and Ramp B over I-95 in the Charles River, and I-90 over Charles Street. Another improvement that is included in this project is the construction of noise walls. This image shows the proposed location of the westbound noise walls to be completed on this project. And this image shows the proposed location of the eastbound noise walls. We held a public outreach program with the impacted abutters and have received feedback approving both the presence of the walls and identifying potential styles for the walls. Some additional project scope consists of bridge and roadway safety improvements, replacement of guardrail, widening of shoulders, lengthen acceleration and deceleration lanes, update of lighting, increasing vertical clearance for freight movement, and improving seismic resiliency. Now I'll turn it over to the project manager for our design builder, Bill Sarapak, to walk you through work completed, the construction approach, and other elements of the project.
Thank you, Marco. The mainline bridge carries I-90 over I-95, the Charles River, and ramps A and B. It's the largest bridge in the project at 4 spans totaling 1,020 feet long and replaces the existing 8-span structure. The proposed bridge design accommodates maintaining 3 lanes of traffic in each direction on I-90 during all phases of construction. During the first phase of construction, a portion of the new I-90 eastbound structure gets built offline to the south of the existing bridge, highlighted in orange in the current slide. Access for construction of the proposed substructure and superstructure is created by installing a temporary trestle adjacent to and under the new bridge to support all phases of construction. In addition to the bridge itself, each side of the bridge will have mechanically stabilized earth walls installed to facilitate the shifted alignment of the roadway and to support the east and west abutments. All existing travel lanes will be maintained during peak travel times, as I stated earlier, and nightly lane closures will be required to support construction operations. Further east on the project is the bridge carrying I-90 over the MBTA commuter railroad. The proposed design rehabilitates and extends the existing substructure elements within this construction season, and then using accelerated bridge construction techniques, the bridge superstructure will be replaced during 2 weekend diversions. Each weekend diversion will close down the commuter rail to trains, replacing train service with buses, and I-90 in both directions will be reduced down to 1 lane from Friday night to Monday morning to facilitate the work. These 2 diversions are scheduled to take place in early summer 2025. More detailed information for these 2 diversions will follow via a dedicated public information meeting early next year. Otherwise, 3 lanes of traffic in each direction will be maintained on the bridge during regular peak travel times, and overnight lane closures will be required to support construction operations. Bridge 64 carrying ramp A and B over I-95 in the Charles River will be rehabilitated, including substructure repairs, structural steel repairs, blasting and painting the structural steel, and safety barrier improvements. Bridge 65 carrying ramp A and B traffic over the Charles River will get a completely new substructure and superstructure. Work on both bridges will be phased in order to maintain traffic on the existing bridges and the new structures that get built out in future phases. However, it will be necessary to reduce the travel lanes from 2 lanes down to 1 lane in each direction for the duration of the construction work on these bridges. These traffic impacts are expected to remain in place through the fall of 2028. Travelers are encouraged to use Mass 511 and navigation apps for current traffic conditions through this area. Here's a graphic showing the traffic flow on Bridge 64 and 65. Traffic traveling from I-95 northbound to I-90 will be reduced down to 1 lane over both the bridges, and traffic traveling from I-90 to I-95 northbound will be reduced down to 1 lane before crossing over I-95. Ramp G carries traffic from various feeder roadways to I-90 eastbound. The proposed design for Ramp G builds 3 new bridges, 1 over Ramp A and B, 1 over the Holtman Aqueduct, and 1 over I-90, all offline to the west of the existing bridges. Construction phasing will require coordination of traffic management plans on I-90 and Ramp A and B to build the new bridge elements, but they won't impart any additional lane reductions at these locations. Once again, off-peak lane closures will be required to support construction operations. Overall, there are 5 stages of construction on the mainline I-90 to facilitate the bridge and roadway construction, and work will continue now through the fall of 2028. To date, the team has progressed the highway and bridge design submissions, implemented the temporary ramp configuration to establish a work zone, and crews have progressed the trestle and bulkhead installation to support mainline bridge construction. This is a photo from a few weeks ago, which shows the trestle that we're constructing through the middle of the slide with the crane placed on it. The existing I-90 eastbound bridge is at the top of the slide, and a portion of the new I-90 eastbound will be built between the trestle and the existing bridge. The team has also performed some early action utility relocation work to facilitate new bridge construction. I'll now turn it back to Marco to talk about the ongoing coordination on the project.
Thanks, Bill. Some of the other coordination that'll be happening on the project is with the MBTA to ensure effective commuter rail operation and passenger access to Riverside, coordination with other MassDOT projects, emergency services on I-90, and to maintain boater access to the Charles River while communicating certain public safety restrictions during that construction. How will we keep you informed? Through our dedicated project website as shown on the slide, which is also available through the QR code shown, through two-way communication via the project email address also shown, through navigation companies such as Google and Waze, who MassDOT notifies, and through future public meetings, the next of which is expected to take place in spring or early summer of 2025. Now I'll turn it over to Dan Fielding of Legislative Affairs, who will transition us to the questions and discussion segment of this meeting.
Thank you, Marco. Hi, I'm Dan Fielding with Mass DOT Government Affairs. Typically, before we open up to public Q&A, we like to recognize elected officials. Tonight, I actually don't see any, and I do apologize if I missed anyone. Please feel free to participate during the Q&A that's about to take place. But so that's it for me, Marco. I'm not sure if I'm handing this back to Joe or.
Yes, thanks, Dan, and thanks, Marco, and the design team. Yeah, there are two main ways for the audience to communicate with our panelists tonight. First is using the raised hand function. And by clicking on that, you'll be put in a queue where you can be unmuted to ask away your questions or comments. You can additionally submit your questions and comments through the written method, using our questions and answers box. So if you click Q&A, that'll prompt up a pop-up, open questions, and you can view both unanswered and answered questions. We'll try to answer all these questions in an equitable manner. So please state your name before each question, and please try to share only one question or comment at a time, limited to 2 minutes to allow everyone to have a fair chance of participating. For those who are on dialing in tonight, doesn't seem like it, but if there is anyone who's having trouble with their microphones, you can dial *9, and the moderator will call out the last digits of your phone number and unmute your audio when it's your turn. As I mentioned earlier, there is a survey that will pop up when you exit out of the Zoom webinar. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey after the meeting and let us know how your experience was with this virtual meeting. All questions and comments are subject to disclosure for public records, so please try to use these functions for project-related business only.
I do not see any questions yet. If you would like to ask a question to our panel, to our project manager, please proceed to raise your hand or to put a question in the Q&A. See a raised hand from Kathy Cade.
I have two questions. The first is, you went through the first part of this presentation very quickly. So for those of us who need a little more time to absorb what you said, is it going to be accessible on the website that you gave us? And my second question is, I'm a member of the Newton Conservation Commission, and I'm just curious as to sort of what processes you went through in order to, ensure that the whole project is complying with all of the Wetlands Protection Act?
To answer your first question, yes, it will be. Both the presentation itself and a recording of it will be posted, so you will have access to that. And regarding your question on environmental permitting, we have ongoing and frequent coordination with Mass DEP and Army Corps of Engineers. And I'll bounce it over to Bill Sarapak to elaborate a bit on what some of the latest coordination consisted of.
And if he could just address in his response kind of, so that's Mass DEP and others, but what about the local conservation commissions? Is our jurisdiction sort of overruled because of the nature of this project?
So Bill, on that first part, I'm going to answer your question in I guess offline, I will post an answer to that question. Reason being is I want to engage our environmental specialists I don't want to answer that question as yes, local, whatever, or not, because I simply don't know the hard answer to that, but I will get you an answer to it over the next few days.
Thanks, Marco. So the project, as we understand it, and it was presented to us and put out to bid, is bridge exempt from Mass Environmental Protection Agency. And as such, we have environmental considerations and conditions that we do have to comply with that were issued by both the Mass DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. And we are actively involved with our environmental monitors from the design build team and also from MassDOT to ensure that we meet those environmental permit requirements.
Thank you. We have another question from Candace Sidner. What will the effects of this construction on I-95 be? Will it continue to be reduced to 3 lanes in that area?
Thanks for that question. Yes, it will. I am assuming you're talking about the segment. We're not doing anything on I-95 in terms of affecting its capacity or lanes. The only place where the project touches I-95 directly is can someone go back to one of the maps just for context? Any of them will do, really. That one's fine. Where the blue arrow loops around that collector distributor road, we're not changing the configuration with respect to I-95. So short answer, no, we're not messing with I-95 and it's staying the way it is.
Thank you. We also have a follow-up raised hand from Candace Sidner.
Will the bridge expand?
Wait. Hi. Oops, I can put my hand down now. All right. Thank you for your explanation. Now.
Thank you, Candace. We have another question from an anonymous attendee. I believe we were told at a previous meeting that work would be done overnight to avoid noise pollution. Is this no longer true?
Thanks for the question. We did say in previous meetings that we would have some nighttime operations. Specifically said that the railroad bridge needed it for the weekend shutdown, but that we would have some, generally speaking.
Thank you. We have another question from David Kozis. When will the noise walls that were described be installed in Newton?
Thanks, David. Regrettably later in the project. Bill, do we have more specifics on where that falls on the schedule?
That's, like you mentioned, towards the end of the project in 2027 and 2028.
Thank you. We have a raised hand from Kathy Cade.
I think I just, hang on a second here. I think I asked my question and was trying to lower my hand, so thank you. I was just curious about the environmental stuff and look forward to hearing more, but I'm not surprised that the state and the Corps of Engineers overrule the local jurisdictions. But actually, while I have my hand raised, there's a boathouse that's sort of I think used by a number of folks that belongs to LaSalle Village. I'm curious as to sort of whether or not the activities from that boathouse are going to be relocated to some other spot in order to avoid having to go back and forth under the construction.
We talked to them a lot. I'll bounce it to Bill initially, who may bounce it to Rod Fink, who speaks to them with some frequency. Bill?
Thanks, Marco. Just dealing with some technical issues here. Kathy, we do have a constant communication with them. We coordinate weekly and even daily with the crew boat passage schedules. And we've have the channel marked out for the crews to get through, and things have been going well so far. There's no intent to relocate that boathouse, and we'll continue as construction progresses to make sure that there's safe passage underneath and through the work zone.
Thank you. We have a question from Candace Sidner. Will the bridges be expanded wide enough to allow I-95 to be expanded in the future?
Thanks, Candace. I'm going to bounce this one over to Darren Conboy because it's a function of the pier configuration. Darren, any elaboration there?
Yes, we are eliminating putting in a pier. There's an existing pier in the median on I-95. And the new bridge will remove that pier. So it'll take out some of the potential restrictions about any future improvements to 95. So the span lengths, as Bill mentioned in the during his presentation, we've actually reduced the number of spans from 8 to 4, so that there'll be more room and more flexibility in the future for any kind of work that'll be done on 95.
Thank you for all your questions. If you have any additional questions, please proceed to raise your hand or write your question in the Q&A. We have another question from Jeff Hesht. Have you assessed the impact of the project on traffic in Route 30, which Newton is doing work on in 2024-2025?
Thanks for that question, Jeff. In terms of the level of modeling we may or may not have done, John Waters, do you know if we modeled that during design development?
Thank you, Marco. During design development, we definitely coordinate because we are aware of the projects on Route 30 in Newton, as well as some projects on Route 30 in Weston. We did not model the traffic that way because construction for our project is maintaining the same number of lanes throughout. So there was not an expectation of major diversions, but we are definitely coordinating with those adjacent projects.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for your questions, everyone.
keep the floor open for another minute or two. If there's no other questions, we'll end the meeting at that time. I'd like to encourage in the meantime, folks to look at the slide that's up on the screen right now, particularly the email for the project. You can ask us questions and we try to be diligent about getting back to you. And then again, the remaining, stay informed. Give it another 30 seconds. All right, I guess with that, thank you to everyone who provided input this evening. Once complete, this project will deliver peace of mind to local and regional travelers by improving the structure's safety, capacity, and longevity, and thank you.